I stared at my phone as it buzzed for the sixth time in less than 10 minutes. Every missed call came from my older sister, Melissa. Before I could decide whether to answer, another text appeared. I need you to watch the kids this weekend. I sighed. I already knew where the conversation was headed. For years, Melissa had treated my free time as if it belonged to her. If she wanted a weekend away with friends, she called me. If she wanted a date night, she called me. If her regular babysitter canceled, she called me. I loved my niece Ava, who was 7, and my nephew Ben, who had just turned 5. Spending time with them wasn't the problem. Being treated like free childcare was. I had been a single dad ever since my wife passed away 4 years earlier. My 10-year-old son, Ethan, was my whole world. I worked from home as a freelance graphic designer, so I could be there before and after school. People often assumed working from home meant I was always available. It didn't. Every hour I spent away from work meant less income. Every unexpected interruption affected my deadlines. Melissa never seemed to understand that. Or maybe she simply chose not to. I finally answered the phone. Hey. She didn't even say hello. So you'll watch the kids Friday through Sunday, right? I rubbed my forehead. I can't. Silence. Then an annoyed laugh. What do you mean you can't? I have 3 client projects due Monday. Ethan also has his science competition Saturday morning. I'm already stretched thin. Melissa sighed dramatically. You work from home. You can do both. No, I really can't. Her voice became sharper. Family helps family. I stayed calm. I agree. But helping should be something you ask for, not something you expect. She ignored that. I already booked the trip. I've spent nearly $1,000. I'm not canceling. I'm sorry. But the answer is still no. She hung up without another word. I thought that was the end of it. I couldn't have been more wrong. The next afternoon, I was helping Ethan finish a model volcano for his science competition. Our dining table was covered with cardboard, glue, paint, and tiny plastic trees. Ethan carefully placed one last rock beside the volcano. Dad, I think this is the best project we've ever made. I smiled. I think you're right. The doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. When I opened the front door, no one stood on the porch. Instead, a yellow taxi was pulling away from the curb. 2 small suitcases sat beside my front steps. Standing next to them were Ava and Ben. Each child carried a backpack. Ava looked worried. Ben looked confused. Before I could even process what I was seeing, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Melissa. They're with you now? I'll pick them up Sunday night. Thanks. My heart dropped. I immediately called her. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Nothing. Again. Still nothing. Ava quietly looked up at me. Mom said you'd be happy to see us. I forced a smile, kneeling beside her. I'm always happy to see you. But I didn't know you were coming. She lowered her eyes. The taxi driver said he had to leave. I looked down the street. The cab had already disappeared around the corner. For a moment, anger rushed through me. Not because the children were standing there. Because my sister had put them in a taxi alone without my agreement, assuming I would simply accept it. I took a deep breath. None of this was Ava's or Ben's fault. Come inside. Ethan immediately welcomed them. We just built a volcano. Ben's face lit up. Can I help? You sure can. As the children laughed around the dining table, I stepped into the kitchen and tried Melissa again. No answer. Then I noticed something even more troubling. The taxi company had slipped a receipt under one of the suitcase handles. The pickup location wasn't Melissa's apartment. It was the departure terminal of the international airport. She hadn't gone across town. She had boarded a flight. At that moment, I realized this wasn't just an inconsiderate decision. Melissa had left the country believing I had no choice but to become her children's caregiver. Standing there with the receipt in my hand, I understood that by the time she finally answered her phone, everything between us was about to change forever, and I looked through the kitchen window as Ethan, Ava, and Ben laughed over the papier-mâché volcano. The children had no idea how angry I felt. And they never would. None of this was their fault. I took another deep breath and called Melissa again. Voicemail. I sent a text. Call me immediately. This is serious. No response. An hour later, another message finally appeared. I'm on the plane. Relax. You'll be fine. I stared at the screen in disbelief. She hadn't even asked whether I could care for them. She had simply decided for me. I replied only once. When you land, we're having a very different conversation. The rest of the weekend wasn't easy. I contacted the children's school to explain the situation. I informed my clients that a family emergency might delay some work. Fortunately, 2 longtime clients understood and extended my deadlines. Ethan shared his room with Ben. Ava helped cook dinner. By Saturday evening, the 3 children were laughing together as if they had always lived under the same roof. Watching them reminded me why this situation hurt so much. Children deserve stability, not to be treated like luggage. Sunday evening came. Melissa didn't. Instead, another text arrived. Flight canceled. I'll come Monday. Monday turned into Tuesday. Tuesday became Wednesday. Each day there was another excuse. A missed connection. A hotel problem. A delayed flight. Something didn't feel right. Finally, on Thursday afternoon, Melissa called. She sounded exhausted. My vacation got extended. I'll get them next week. I was silent for several seconds. You left your children in a taxi without confirming anyone would receive them. They're not furniture. They're your responsibility. She became defensive. I knew you'd take care of them. That's not the point. You never asked. You decided. She sighed. I thought you'd get over it. I answered quietly. No, I won't. After ending the call, I spoke with a family attorney recommended by a friend. I wasn't trying to punish Melissa. I simply wanted to understand my responsibilities while the children were staying with me. The attorney explained that documenting everything and ensuring the children were safe was the right approach. For the next several days, I focused on giving the kids as normal a routine as possible. School, homework, dinner together, movie night, bedtime stories. One evening, Ava quietly asked, Uncle James, are we in trouble? I knelt beside her. Not at all. You've done absolutely nothing wrong. She looked relieved. I was scared. I hugged her gently. You never have to be afraid to tell adults how you feel. The following Monday, Melissa finally returned. She arrived at my house expecting to collect the children as though nothing unusual had happened. Instead, she found me waiting on the porch. I packed their things, I said. But before they leave, we need to talk. She crossed her arms. You're acting like I abandoned them. I looked directly at her. You put 2 young children into a taxi without confirming the person receiving them had agreed. What would have happened if I hadn't been home? She opened her mouth, but said nothing. What if the driver had gone to the wrong address? What if the kids had become frightened? What if something had happened on the way? For the first time, Melissa's confidence disappeared. She looked toward Ava and Ben playing in the living room. Tears slowly filled her eyes. I didn't think about any of that. I know. That's exactly the problem. There was a long silence. Finally, she whispered, I'm sorry. I wasn't acting like their mother. I was acting like someone trying to escape responsibility. Over the following months, things gradually changed. Melissa began arranging childcare properly. If she needed help, she asked instead of assuming. If I wasn't available, she accepted the answer without guilt or arguments. More importantly, she spent more intentional time with Ava and Ben. One afternoon, several months later, she surprised me by knocking on my door with homemade cookies. I owe you more than an apology, she said. You protected my children when I failed them. I smiled. They're my family too. She nodded. I know. But now I understand that loving family doesn't mean taking them for granted. That evening, Ethan asked me, Dad, why didn't you yell at Aunt Melissa? I thought for a moment. Because people usually learn more from honest conversations than angry ones. He smiled. I think Mom would have said the same thing. So do I. Looking back, people often assumed the biggest part of the story was that my sister sent her children to my house in a taxi after I had clearly said no. It wasn't. The real story was what happened afterward. We learned that family isn't about demanding sacrifices. It's about respecting one another's time, responsibilities, and boundaries. Saying no doesn't mean you love your family less. And saying yes should always be a choice, not something forced upon you. In the end, our family became stronger, not because we ignored what happened, but because we finally faced it honestly and chose to build trust instead of taking it for granted.